So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, Text 7. Translation. King Prithu spoke, "My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult for even the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty. When something uncommon happens in one's progressive spiritual life, it should be understood to be incurred by agyata sukriti or pious activities beyond one's knowledge. To see personally the Supreme Personality of Godhead or His pure devotee is not an ordinary incident. When such things happen, they should be understood to be caused by previous pious activity as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Yesham tvanta gatam papam jananam punya karmanam. One who is completely freed from all the resultant actions of sinful activities and who is absorbed only in pious activities can engage in devotional service. Although Maharaj Prithu's life is full of pious activities, he was wondering how his audience with the Kumaras happened. He could not imagine what kind of pious activities he had performed. This is a sign of humility on the part of King Prithu, whose life was so full of pious activities that even Lord Vishnu also came to see him and predicted that the Kumaras would also come. Prithuruvacha aho acharitam ki me mangalam mangalayanaha yasya vo darshanam hyasit durdarshanam chayogi bihi. King Prithu spoke, "My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult for even the mystic yogis to see you. Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me by appearing before me without difficulty." Can I have English Gita? English Gita.
What program?
English Bhagavad Gita. Thank you. Wow, so beautiful. So, King Prithu is starting to talk to the Kumaras after they were seated and after he washed their feet and after he sprinkled the water on his head. So we were speaking about the power of spiritual culture and power of respecting the saintly personalities. And here King Prithu expresses his gratitude, and he is wondering how this came about, this great fortune. And there is one word here, actually two words, Mangala Ayanaha, which is beautiful. It means all personified good fortune, or Srila Prabhupada translated it, auspiciousness personified. Auspiciousness personified. So this is what devotee is. He is auspiciousness personified. He is a personified good fortune. Mangala, or Mangala means good fortune. And that means that he brings good fortune to other people's lives. And how he does that? He does this by giving them Krishna consciousness and by helping them to reconnect with God. Because this is the how I say, the greatest boon or greatest benediction that we can give to others is to give them Krishna consciousness and to give them a chance to reconnect with God and to reawaken their dormant Krishna consciousness. Conditioned soul forgets about God, and if someone helps them to actually awaken to the fact that they are an eternal servant of Krishna, then they can get the most benefit from that. So King Prithu is wondering what kind of pious activity I performed so that I have this mercy or grace that you have appeared to me. You have appeared to me. And Agyata Sukriti means sometimes also unconscious pious activity. Once one gentleman helped Srila Prabhupada to, climb the stairs, and then there was, I think in Lilamrita, there was explanation that this person now has, acquired some pious activity because he helped the saintly person to walk the stairs. So sometimes people do something unconsciously, or even I think if people help you, you ask them something and they help you, they direct you, or this is also counted. It's also counted. Like once in Zurich, I tried to phone the temple because nobody came to pick me up at the station. Tried to phone the temple, but in Switzerland you have to have a Swiss number in order to use the free Wi-Fi anywhere. Only with a Swiss number you can do that, and you have to enter that number. So therefore I couldn't call. And I entered the shop, one of the shops, and there was one girl there selling electric cigarettes. And then I asked her, can I use your phone to contact my friend to pick me up? And she said, sure. So through her Facebook, we sent a message. And devotees got it. They got a message. And they came to pick me up. But then I invited her to the temple. And she came to the temple, she took prasadam. So by helping me to basically go to a place where I will do service, I hope she got some Agyata Sukriti, some pious credit. But she also visited the temple, and I gave her some books, and she didn't become a devotee now, but maybe she will become a devotee in the future. So sometimes people unconsciously, they do something, and in this way they acquire some pious credits. And then based on this, they might get more chance, and they might see a saintly person, or they might hear from the saintly person. And I mean, nowadays, with everything put on the internet by Srila Prabhupada, all the books and all the lectures and videos and everything, people can actually see Srila Prabhupada online, and in this way also they can start their spiritual life. So here, Srila Prabhupada is quoting the verse from the Bhagavad Gita in relation to previous pious activity, 7:28, Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam Tedvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam drida vrataha. Who can engage in devotional service? One who is completely freed from all the resultant actions of sinful activities. So, persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Now we see that sinful actions are not completely eradicated, and still we get a chance to actually engage in devotional service. We still get a chance to engage. And through this devotional service, one can become purified. So what is the result of being freed from sinful reactions? One result is to become free from the dualities of delusion. Now this is a big thing. I mean, to become free from the dualities, it's not a small thing. Who is free from dualities? Dualities of delusion, dualities of good and bad in this world. And then Drida Vrata, very important word in this verse, is that how do you engage in devotional service? To engage with determination. So you are engaged in devotional service with determination. Because you don't give up. You don't give up. You continue serving again and again. So this is called Drida Vrata. Drida Vrata means strong vow, determined vow, dedicated vow. So this is possible when one is freed, purified from these sinful reactions. We see sometimes people come, but then they leave after some time. Because the heart is not purified sufficiently from sinful reactions. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, atheistic, foolish, and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. Ichadvesha samudhena dvandva mohena bharata. This is also mentioned, duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously, and who have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So meditating in trance on the Supreme Lord is called Samadhi. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness in the association of pure devotees. For in the association of great devotees, one can be delivered from delusion. And so how do we associate with pure devotees? Or how do we associate with the representative of God to be delivered from delusion? The first way to associate is hearing, by hearing, especially by regular hearing from Srila Prabhupada and his bona fide representatives. One associates with them. And then another way to associate with them is through service. So here Prithu Maharaj is associating with 4 Kumaras who are also Kumara Sampradaya Acharyas. He is associating by hearing from them, he is associating by serving them, by giving them a seat, and later by feeding them. So, but also what is he doing is he is inquiring. That's very important. To inquire from a saintly person, to inquire from a pure devotee, and to very carefully listen to his answers, because these answers can enlighten us. devotees have made a CD once where their questions, I think questions are written, or maybe no, also they're spoken. So questions, and then Srila Prabhupada gives answers. They have recorded Srila Prabhupada's answers in the video. And what is the result of rendering service to devotees? That is described in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahat sevam dvaram ahur vimukte tamo dvaram joshitam sangi sangam. Mahat sevam dvaram ahur vimukte tamo dvaram joshitam sangi sangam. Mahat sevam dvaram. Dvaram means what?
Entrance.
Entrance or
Room.
gate,
Yeah, gate.
door. So by serving Mahat or a pure devotee,
In Russian, dver is the door.
yes, Dveri is the same. Dvaram, Dveri. In Bosnian also. So Mahat Sevam Dvaram, by serving the pure devotee, Mahatma, the door of liberation, Ahur Vimukte, is being opened. And by associating or serving those who are Joshitam Sangi Sangam, who are attached to sense gratification, who are attached to women and those attached to women, this then Tamodvara, that the door of hell is opened. The darkest region of existence, Tamodvaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. All the devotees of the Lord traverse this earth just to recover the conditioned souls from their delusion. So now Kumaras are coming and they are preaching to the king. Although king himself he's a saintly king and he is also an incarnation of the Lord, but he is playing that role of a king who needs enlightenment, and he is inquiring, he is showing how to inquire from the saintly person and get benefit. So devotees are moving always, they are not sitting in one place. They go to people. So yesterday we had a meeting about mentoring system, and one thing I didn't mention is that a mentor doesn't say, if you need me, come to me. No, he reaches out and he calls a devotee and says, how are you doing? Of course, if a devotee is proactive and he wants to benefit by getting assistance of a mentor, he will actually contact him first. But people sometimes don't. So occasionally we ask people, how are you doing? And then if they are, ready to open up, then we have an opportunity to serve them, to speak and to serve them and to support them. So moving around and reaching out to other people is very important. The impersonalists do not know that forgetting their constitutional position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord is the greatest violation of God's law. So forgetfulness is a violation, and we are all forgetful. Unless one is reinstated in his own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or to be fully engaged in his transcendental loving service with determination. So now, to be reinstated in our own constitutional position, it is also described what is liberation. In Srimad Bhagavatam, muktir hitvanyata rupam svarupena vyavastiti. Liberation is described like understanding and situating oneself in one's eternal position of the eternal servant of Krishna. Muktir hitvanyata rupam Svarupena Vyavastiti. Svarupa means our eternal position. Now we don't know what is our Svarupa, and some people, they want to find it out too early, then they start to act in a funny way. Like one man was told by his so-called guru that he is a peacock, and then although he has a human body, he started acting as a peacock because he thought he's a peacock in the spiritual world. So for us, the most important realization of our eternal position is that we are a servant. And whether we have this rasa or that rasa, this will be discovered later. Reinstated in his own constitutional position, and the most important understanding of the constitutional position is that I am the servant of God and I am meant to act for His pleasure. And when one understands this, then he can fully be engaged in the service, in the transcendental loving service with determination, drida vrata. So these basic understandings are necessary, otherwise people leave. They don't understand why I'm here and what am I doing. And if you, devotees sometimes say, I have an identity crisis. But if you understand you're an eternal servant of Krishna, and you are supposed to serve Krishna in one way or the other, how can you have an identity crisis? You have identity understanding, if you understand that. And you feel comfortable in that understanding. You feel safe in that understanding. And you know that you are protected by the Lord. And you've got nothing to lose at any point. So it's important to get purified from the sinful activities, sinful reactions, and they are also, sinful reactions are also described in the purport to the second verse of the 9th chapter, and also in the Nectar of Devotion. And we can just visit this section. So what is the second verse of the 9th chapter? Huh? 9th chapter. Which one? Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. Raja Vidyam, Raja Guhyam. Yes. Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam. Susukam Kartum Avyayam. So this is one of the longest purports in Prabhupada's books, and in one section there is a mention of sinful activities described in Padma Purana. In the Padma Purana, men's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reactions. So sinful reactions have different stages and different forms. And this is described in Padma Purana. Those who are engaged, for instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree, then it flowers and bears fruit, and when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruit of the sinful action are still to be enjoyed or also suffered. There are sins which are still in the form of seed, and there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain. So why Srila Prabhupada says that we are enjoying as distress and pain? Then it continues, as explained in the 28th verse of the 7th chapter. We just read that verse, and it's quoted here, so it's connected. A person who has completely ended the reactions of all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So this is the explanation of this same verse. Yesham tvantagatam papam. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already freed from all reactions. This statement is confirmed in the Padma Purana. Aprarabdha palam papam kutam bijam palon mukam krame naiva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. I will read again. Aprarabdha palam papam kutam bijam palon mukam krame naiva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. For those For those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stalk or in the form of seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called Pavitram Uttamam, the purest. Uttama means transcendental, Tamas means this material world or darkness, and Uttama means that which is transcendental to material activities. So here it says that gradually vanish. It doesn't say immediately vanish, but gradually vanish. These sinful reactions gradually vanish. So there is still some karma to be suffered or enjoyed, and gradually the wheel of karma stops. It gets slower and slower. Devotional activities are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men. One who can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are not material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. So we have heard of the example, the devotional service burns to ashes all the sinful reactions and all the desires, as also as the fire in the forest is burning all the snakes that are on the ground, burning all the snakes. So material desires, sinful desires, are actually described to snakes. And people may do some penance and repentance, or what's the word? Atonement. They to how you say, compensate or make up for the sinful activities that they do. But actually, if the seed of the desire is not burned, they will engage again in these sinful activities. So therefore, it's very important to work on burning the seed of sinful desire. Burning the seed of a sinful desire. Then the tendency to sin will not come back. And we see people engage in devotional service, but then the tendency to do sinful activities is still there, and sometimes people fall down. So this is very, very scientific explanation in Padma Purana. Srila Prabhupada quotes it here, but also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu it is quoted, so that one understands how these sinful reactions manifest and how they can be destroyed completely. And this is explained in the Shastra very scientifically, so that we understand what is the nature of our conditioning and how to purify the heart. So here, now this very important deep conversation is starting. And we have heard of Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti. That Bhakti mixed with Karma, Bhakti mixed with Jnana, Bhakti mixed with Yoga. But we want Shuddha Bhakti or pure Bhakti, unmixed. That there is no sand in the sweet rice. So Maharaj Prithu's life was full of pious activities. But still, he was wondering how I got this darshan, how I got this great fortune to see Kumaras and to be enlightened by them and to be able to inquire from them. So now we can see that this is a sign of humility on the part of Maharaj Prithu. He is humble, and he is thinking in a humble way, and he is speaking in a humble way. So we can learn from the saintly personalities, we can learn from the advanced devotees how to be humble, how to think in a humble way, and how to speak in a humble way. So his life was full of pious activities. And how do we know that this is so? It is stated here that even Lord Vishnu came to see him and predicted that the Kumaras would also come. So for us, the main saintly person is Srila Prabhupada, and we have opportunity to have his darshan every single day. In front of his murti, in front of his philosophy, in front of his teachings, we can hear from him every single day. We can study his teachings. We can study thematically or topically his teachings. We can read Vanipedia. And yesterday I was looking about attachment, and there is a whole category about attachment. If you want to know about attachment and how to get free from attachment in the material world, then there is a whole category. Devotees have compiled so much about attachment. They have practically everything they have compiled, and one can study. So whatever, there is 14,000 categories. Can you imagine? There is no problem that you can have that is not covered by this compilation of Srila Prabhupada's teachings. And when you read this, you become empowered to solve your problems. You become empowered to understand how we are conditioned. We become empowered how we are conditioned and how we can get free from that conditioning. So if one is really, really sincerely interested in getting healed from the disease of material consciousness, material contamination, there are so many instructions. Like a prescription on the medicine. There are so many instructions. But the problem is people are not interested. To hear the truth requires courage. To hear the truth about our conditioning requires courage. And as I said the other day, there is two kinds of people in the world, doctors and patients. So you can remain a patient forever, you can remain a victim, you can lament, you can complain, or you can start to help others and in this way also help yourself. Oh, I'm not qualified. So why don't you preach? I'm not qualified. So how do you become qualified? By waiting? How can you become qualified to preach if you don't preach? How can you become qualified or confident to do anything if you don't do it? I am waiting to be hit by a light from the sky, and then mystically and magically I will become a preacher. So this will not happen. You have to practice every day. Practice. Do a little preaching, do a little more preaching. Speak a little bit, write something to someone, share. And Prabhupada says, we just read, it's not difficult to become a guru, you just repeat what Krishna said and also live it. Also live it, not just talk. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Do you have any questions? Yes?
You mentioned that just repeat what Krishna told, but that is also very, very difficult. Like Srila Prabhupada always used to say that I am a postman. So the postman job is not that much of easy. Very, very difficult.
Why?
For example, if whatever the Krishna told to say someone and follow the words during troubling situations, that will be very, very difficult, like normal person. When something we didn't follow those words, and who heard words from me, we said that this fellow not able to follow, then how he can do it? So this type of mentality I have.
So it's not difficult to repeat, but it's difficult to be an example of what you repeat. Yeah. So therefore, this is by giving a public statement, you challenge yourself to follow. So that's bold. That's courageous. Prabhupada is forcing us to give a public statement. It's a trick. It's a trick. Srila Prabhupada is forcing us. Imagine today you give a statement that from tomorrow I'm going to smile to devotees. Most of the time. And then when you meet a devotee, you don't feel like smiling, but you say, well, I promised publicly, so I have to do it. So you put yourself in an awkward position. How you say, unpleasant position. But we have to push ourselves to go over our limits. If you want to grow, you have to stretch, isn't it? If you want to grow, you have to stretch. So, one of the greatest favors that Prabhupada did to us, he challenged us to the core. He challenged us. Nobody ever challenged me in my life so much as Prabhupada. First of all, he tells us that we are like animals. So we may get offended. I'm not like an animal, I'm a nice guy. I invite my neighbor for coffee. Or for whiskey. I'm a nice guy. First he explained to us how degraded we are, and then he told us, although you are degraded, you can become a saintly person. Just do this. Repeat the words of the Lord and follow the words of the Lord. But anybody can do it because you are an eternal part and parcel of God. You are an eternal servant of Krishna. You have this capacity to serve Him. You are Sachitananda, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. But the question is, do you really want it? Do you really want to be a devotee? Do you really want to be a pure devotee? And once you say, yes, I want it, it becomes easy. You become an instrument in God's hands, and it's not hard. The hard is, our mind is hard, our false ego is hard. Krishna consciousness is not hard. The hard is to make a decision. From now on, my Lord, I'm yours. You do with me whatever you want. Srila Prabhupada says, if you brought me here to dance, make me dance as a puppet in your hands. When he came to America. So this kind of mentality and this kind of surrender is required. Mighty Lord, from nowadays, you do with me whatever you like. And of course, all of you are surrendering to some extent. But the reason why we are not happy is because we don't surrender fully. We are still holding something. We're trying to take shelter of the material world. Still holding something. And this is the difficulty. This is the sand in the sweet rice. We are holding back something. There is some mixture, some fruitive desire. So it's clear what we need to do, but we need to do it. Then we will experience bliss and nectar of Krishna consciousness. When we fall down completely in front of the Lord and surrender. Okay? Yes?
We read today that the good fortune is required. Ask him what we did and what good we did to meet you, and he did. I'm your good fortune. How to understand him?
Well, the Lord always, this is what I mentioned. You reach out to others. Like God is reaching out to us. He's not waiting for us. If somebody is more advanced and developed, then he will pray to the Lord. He will try to take shelter of the Lord. And still there may be something. So there is something to be burnt, and then they suffer even at the end. After serving Krishna whole life, one still has some kind to burn, and then that's why they have. But this suffering is not very much. I mean, it's not very much, this suffering. This is something like, how you say, to finalize purification, so that they can be ready to leave their body in a higher consciousness, and that they are not burdened by that karma. And devotees' relation to suffering is very also humble, that he doesn't mind suffering. Radharani also doesn't mind suffering. He's not confused or, how you say, bewildered with suffering. Suffering doesn't stop him from having devotional attitude, and suffering doesn't stop him from serving. That's the greatness of a devotee. So we can see in the Shastra devotees never stopping to serve, never stopping to have faith, because they are situated in higher consciousness and they understand their position as a servant. So nothing can stop them. Sometimes we are in so much pain, like physical pain, and it's difficult to concentrate on any kind of service. But still, we are trying. Sometimes devotee has a headache and he has to go on the altar or has to cook or something, but they still do it. They still do it. So in the Bhagavad Gita also it is recommended not to give up devotional service if it's hard. And there may be these obstacles from within, from the like kleshas, Adhyatmika klesha, Adhibhautika klesha, Adhidaivika klesha. We don't stop our service if it's raining. We continue. We don't stop service if it's too hot or too cold. We still do it. And in this way we raise above the dualities. Okay. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.